Hi everyone, my name is Helen and welcome back to my channel. Now, if you haven't watched my last series, How to Crochet with One Hand, I'll leave the playlist in the card above me and also in the description box down below. So check it out. It's a 4-part series, and the first part is all about my adaptive crochet aid and a little backstory about me. So if you're interested in that, go and click on the link. In this video and this series, this is part 1 of how to knit with one hand. I'll be showing you the different methods of knitting and the tools that you will need, and also I will talk a little bit about the backstory, my backstory about knitting. So without further ado, let's get started. So, a little backstory of how I started to knit with one hand. I had a hemiplegic stroke, and 5 months after that, my occupational therapist asked me if there's anything that I would like to do, any hobbies that I would like to try. At that time, I saw my sister knitting, and she knitted beautiful things, and I felt envious of her, and I wanted to knit too. So I told my occupational therapist that, hey, I want to do that. I want to knit. So after searching on YouTube, I came across many videos showing you how to knit with one hand. And trust me, I was so relieved. It's possible. It's totally possible. And I'm going to show you how in this series. To give you a little timeline of when I started to knit and when I started to crochet, I started to knit about 9 years ago, and I started to crochet about a year and a half ago. And both of those times, it was my sister who inspired me to crochet and knit. To hear more about my story, my knitting story, I have an article on Medium that I will link it down below in the description box. So check it out. And now for the disclaimer. Everyone is different, so I'm just showing the way that I knit using one hand. I use my knees to hold one of the knitting needles while my left hand holds the other. Like crocheting, I cannot use another part of my body, unfortunately. That's why I use an adaptive crochet aid. Some people can use another part of their body. So some people use their arms as a holder for their crochet hook, and they hold it underneath their armpits. But I can't do that because my right arm is very weak. So whatever method that works for you and you feel most comfortable with is the method you should do. But for knitting, I don't need to do that because I can use my knees or thighs to help me. In crocheting, some people use the other arm to hold the crochet hook, like under their armpits. But I can use my knees or thighs to help me knit. In crocheting, I personally cannot use my right arm to hold the crochet hook because it's very, very weak. So instead, I use an adaptive crochet device to help me. So do whatever method you find most comfortable to you. I'm going to share some resources and YouTube videos that I found while searching on the web about one-handed knitting. The first resource that I found, I'll leave the link down below so you can check it out. So this video, you can knit by attaching the one of the knitting needles on the arm of an armchair, or in this video's case, on the lady's wheelchair. I will show you an example. I have 2 hair ties and I'm going to string them in the arm of the chair. Now, I wouldn't suggest you use an elastic band because they are really, really thin. Both of the hair ties are on the arm. Now I take my yarn and my knitting needle. What I'm going to do next is I'm going to insert the knitting needle inside of the hair ties. I'll show you what I mean. So now I'm just inserting the knitting needle in between the hair ties and the arm. To switch the knitting needles, all you have to do is just pull on the knitting needle like this. And if you want to put it back in, you do the same thing as before. So researching for this video, I found a lot of ways where you can put the other knitting needle. And I think that attaching the knitting needle on the arm of the armchair is pretty promising. So I tried it with my own chair, but it didn't exactly work. My chair is a swivel chair, meaning it can't stay idle when you sit on it. My recommendation is to get a regular chair with arms and without the swivel. The arms are essentially your other hand that you are going to knit with. So in my case, I would hold one of the knitting needles on my left hand side, and my right hand side, since I can't move my arm and it's really weak, I'm going to put the other knitting needle on the right arm. I also have this green gauze at the end of my knitting needle. It helps me hold the knitting needle between my thighs so it won't slip and fall off. So just keep that in mind. The second resource that I'm going to share is the knitting belt. I will also leave the video of the knitting belt in the card above me and also in the description box down below. So check it out. This technique I would love to try, and I highly recommend you to give it a watch. You strap the knitting belt across your stomach and you use double pointed knitting needles. It's so cool, and I can't explain it well enough, so watch the video down below. The third resource will also be linked down below. This is an actual device that can help people knit, and you can also buy it. But I would recommend you, before spending money on the adaptive device, to try the armchair method and see if it works. The armchair method is basically the same principle, so try it out first. The fourth resource and method is to use your knees or thighs to hold the knitting needle. I will show you how to knit using this method. So in this case, I'm going to hold one of my knitting needles in my left hand, and the other knitting needle will be placed between my knees or thighs. The only concern here is that your neck will be tired after a period of time, because you are constantly looking at your knitting workspace and your neck is like always looking down. If you are using this method, remember to stretch your neck once in a while. Just don't exhaust yourself and take breaks. I will show you how to knit using the fourth method in the upcoming videos. Thank you so much for watching the intro video to my 4-part series. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to get notified when I post a new knitting video. On my next video, we are going to start the cast on of the knitting piece. We are going to do the long tail cast on. If you don't want to miss out, hit the subscribe button. Self-plug here, but I make 3D art and cute 3D creations. My Instagram page is Helen Mellon 3D Art. I'm going to share some of my work. I made this, and this. So check it out and give me a follow. While you're waiting for my one-handed knitting series, you can watch my one-handed crochet series, and I will leave it in the card above me and also in the description box down below. Thank you so much for watching. Get notified for part 2, and I will see you later. Bye!